Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP episode 441. We are live today, what is it, August 2nd?
Sure.
I'm Lucas.
Maybe.
I am joined tonight by Christian,
What up?
Peter,
Forever Destron.
Phil, and Rob.
Hi!
there you go.
Let's talk about toys and cartoons.
Woo!
Yay! Those things always make me happy.
No, you know what? Fuck that. Let's gripe like a bunch of old, bitter men. Since
Right.
That's all we have on the show right now.
So we're talking about Motu, right?
I haven't watched it yet.
I
One of my coworkers has nothing to do with toys or whatever. He actually watched it and he's like, "Hey, that was pretty good." It's like, cool. I'll get to it.
Would have traded so much for this Netflix Transformers trilogy to be anywhere close to what the new Motu was.
Really?
Oh yeah, the new Motu is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's so much better than this.
Yeah, I was kind of realizing, this isn't just going to be a talk about Kingdom. This is going to be a talk about the trilogy. Now that it's wrapped,
It's over. Yeah.
Over.
it'll be kind of a good time just to. I do feel that it's been pretty consistent from the beginning to the end. For better or worse, the gripes we had at the beginning and we had at the middle
Same gripes.
have pretty much the same ones now. I do think this was the best of the three.
Yeah,
I agree
spoilers.
with that.
Jeez, we're
Yeah.
we're supposed to bury the lead. You're supposed to say that like an hour in when no one's actually watching this.
Hey, I haven't given my opinion. I just said it was the best of the three. That's like Star Wars Episode 3 was the best of the prequels. That doesn't necessarily mean it's good.
Star Wars Episode 3 is good.
I mean, I think it's okay. But, that's
It's
the point.
better than Jedi, so
What?
yeah.
Which
I'm
Jedi?
not
Return
selling
of the
you that.
Jedi?
I'm
Return
not
of the
selling you
Jedi,
that
yeah.
Bumblebee now.
Return of the Jedi is half good, half terrible.
Right. Revenge of the Sith is just all good.
I hadn't
To
seen
his
it, Phil.
face.
Yub
Say it's
nub.
half terrible to his face.
Yub nub, my bro.
You suck, Yub Nub.
You are terrible.
You can yub my nubs all night
It's
long, you little piece
A
of shit.
murderous teddy bear. They kill stormtroopers and use their heads as drums.
I'm with
the
you,
best
Phil.
part was that
I'm with you.
got to see some of them get killed.
Wow.
No, I don't actually believe that. I don't like them very much, though. Anyway, we're talking about the third part of Transformers War for Cybertron. All the third parts of various Star Wars trilogies. Transformers trilogy.
So I just wonder with some of these shows, like, would it help if you didn't know any backstory? Like, I feel
Opposite.
like that I
Opposite.
enjoy.
Like while I was watching Kingdom, I kept thinking, man, if I didn't already know Transformers, I wouldn't appreciate any of this. Like the bits I did like were because they were just kind of like fan wangy, or it's like, oh, that was pretty good in the vein of what came before, like I feel it would have been completely. But sorry, I didn't mean to
Do you
interrupt.
feel like that was more the case for Kingdom than it was for the prior ones?
I don't know if I feel that for the prior ones. I just definitely know I felt it for this one.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I would agree with that for Kingdom.
Like a lot of the Beast Wars characters had so little screen time or lines or anything that like it's hard to justify their existence.
However, the Beast characters from Kingdom were way better than any of the new characters from Earthrise. You know,
Yes.
so
Were there new characters in Earth?
Double Dealer
Cog.
and some
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
Quintesson,
Double Dealer.
yeah, like the 14 seconds that he was on, he's like, I'm a mercenary, bye.
Yeah.
And then he comes back.
Oh, and I
Bye.
forgot Skylinks existed, kind of.
Skylinks, yeah, is there to be.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that at
Is
all.
there to not actually move because that would be too expensive?
Yeah, he did not move. It was cool.
Yeah.
No
You know-
transforming for you.
You know, this has been a problem since Beast Wars, and I hate that it's still a problem today. It's very obvious when they're like, oh, we didn't have time to model this animation, transforming animation for this character, and so they do it off screen. Or like Scorponok, they don't do it at all. You know, like they don't even have an alt mode or a voice in that matter. And apparently he's a drone now.
Is it well? Okay, that actually might be a continuity point because in Earthrise, Scorponok called himself the last of the great Scorponoks, and in Kingdom, there's a bunch of lesser Scorponoks.
You crack the case.
Did they refer to him as Scorponok in Kingdom though? I don't
No,
know.
he's just
Yeah,
dude,
okay.
He's just there.
Yeah.
grunting dude.
He grunted?
Grumping, bumbling
Yeah, he-
guard.
He grunted a couple times.
You know, Peter, you put way more thought into that than I think anyone else ever has.
I mean, I figured that there was a bunch of Scorponoks just so that way Rick would have something else to troop build.
They could have, you know, when they talk about Unicron and Galvatron and his legions or whatever, they could have.
I want to
Done.
get to Galvatron in a minute, but while we're on non-transforming people, Bumblebee RC still didn't transform. Ironhide and Ratchet still didn't transform.
It's
Good
very,
stuff.
it's so obvious.
Ooh,
And,
ooh.
and like, and this is the same problem we had in Beast Wars too, that like they're on Earth, but there's like no other animals because they're not modeled. Right? You know, and it's,
Yeah.
and it's like, I get it. You know, that's one of the costs of doing 3D animations versus, you know, hand drawn, but it just sticks out so bad. It's like, oh, you don't have budget to make a bunch of these guys and rig them. Like, I get it, but
You know what did have a bunch of guys that were all rigged and was made by the same studio, Polygon?
Unicron trilogy?
Pacific Rim the Black. That was a Netflix thing from earlier in the year and made by the same studio. The animation's pretty similar, but it's just better in a lot of ways. And
Smoother.
as we go through the evening, I'm going to be referring back to Pacific Rim the Black a lot.
I wonder if I don't take a show like this as 100%, like this exposes the talent and capability of everyone in every company involved, like because so much comes down to budget. And I doubt Hasbro said you have the budget we give to Pacific Rim. I could be wrong though. I mean, I have no idea.
I mean, I still feel like the animation itself I thought looked good. Like
Yeah, I
I
thought the
liked
animation
the
was
way everything looked like, or you know, most of it looked. I thought
Most
that they
of it.
did a pretty good job, you know, with that stuff. But yeah, I 100% agree about the lack of transformation is kind of annoying.
See, here's my thing. I can overlook the lack of transformation if the characters in the story are interesting, and they were not.
AKA Lost Light.
Yeah, there you go.
Are you saying Lost Light wasn't interesting?
No, I'm saying the other. It was still
Oh.
good. Even they never transform in it.
Yeah.
And it
Got
was-
it.
we didn't. Nobody
I was
cared.
like, that's your bad comparison?
No. It was the other way around. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately,
But-
everything's forgivable if you know that the story's good.
But I
Or
still
present.
felt like there was better character development in this one in Kingdom than there was in the prior shows.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the Beast characters got more personality. Like, I think the Beast characters had the most personality in their voices, aside from Starscream, from the original, from the first two, parts of the trilogy. The Beast characters actually had personality. Like, you got a little bit of personality from Dinobot, definitely got personality from Rat Trap and Black Arachnia.
Airazor was good, I thought.
Yes, Airazor also was very good. So in terms of like characters that said something with a distinct, not just like physical voice, but with a character voice, the Beasts had that much. Even Rhinox had much more of that.
2 whole lines, but they were there.
They existed.
Speaking of bad animation, did you guys see the part where he was typing on the keyboard, but they didn't want to show his hands, so you just saw the rhino knuckles?
Yes.
And like literally, it was like this, where you just saw like the tops of his knuckles moving up and down, but not his fingers, so they wouldn't have to animate it.
Hey, if it works.
Yeah.
Speaking of weird fingers, at the very end, when Alita's fingers are on Prime, why they look like they're spaghetti noodles? Like, what the hell happened? Like, I thought maybe she was going to be Chrome Dome, like about to, like do the mnemonic thing, like inject into his brain. Like her hands got so long. It was really distracting. Sorry, I know that was out of nowhere.
One of the complaints that I had.
You go, Peter.
Okay. One of the complaints I had for whatever the first series was called, and then again in the second series, whatever it was called, is the transformation sound. It's really like, it's like one of those things that's stuck in your brain. And for the first 2 series, it was nothing but going up. Didn't matter which mode they were going into, whatever they were doing, always the going up transformation sound. In this show, they finally did the going down transformation sound, and it was one time that I noticed. Hang on, I got a cough. And so it's the down transformation sound when Black Arachne was going into robot mode. So they finally used it, but they did it backward. And
You
I
were
was like,
that
hey,
close.
Farts.
No, somebody else was going to alt mode off screen. That's what, and they were closer to the microphone.
Totally.
Just off camera.
But like, if they had that soundbite, why didn't they use it more? You know what I mean? Like,
because throughout this whole project, there's a lack of care. I mean, everything that we're going to talk about comes down to that. There's a lack of care and polish for this thing. They're like, slap it together. Bleh.
Before we go any further, there are people who were involved in the production of this that do sincerely care. And there were standouts, and Frank did a great job of Starscream. And that, I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, the Megatron reactor, we still think he likes.
Yeah.
Like, I feel the reason that Frank works so well as Starscream and as Rat Trap is because he's a fan. And so he's like, he knows the characters. Whereas a lot of other people, it's, here's voice acting job number 842 for today. Like, it doesn't mean they're not caring or trying to, but they don't know it. They don't know that Ironhide shouldn't just be another guy that sounds like literally any other guy. It's like, no, they have characters. The 80s show, everyone in it had characters. In Beast Wars, everyone had characters. So many of this entire trilogy are just people talking in a mic.
But how is that their fault, though? Like,
it's not. It's the voice actor or the director fault.
It's the voice director. Yeah.
We don't have Sue Blue on this.
They hire the actors. Like, they could be the ones that say, "All right, you are this character, you're this character, whatever." So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like, you have the perfect voice. Well, not the perfect voice. You have a good voice for Tigatron, and you have a good voice for Dinobot, but they're playing opposite characters.
They were
Switch
so
those
miscast.
dudes around.
I mean, Tigatron had all of 3 lines anyways. Like, he's another one that, if you hadn't watched Beast Wars, he would mean nothing. He's just, he shows up, he jumps around a couple times, and he has 3 lines and sounds like a snake for some reason.
They've got a tiger guy and a cheetah guy.
Yeah.
They've got all the
kind of get a hint of a Black Arachne and a Tigatron relationship at the beginning, and then nope, that was it. Like,
you mean Air-Razor?
Black
Air-Razor.
Air-Razor.
You get an Air-Razor and Tigatron relationship sort of hint at the beginning that he can communicate with her, and seemingly the other Maximals cannot. And then no, that's it. We're done with that.
I mean,
there's a lot of that's it. We're done with that.
I mean, to me, I feel like that this just felt like a huge commercial. Like, the whole series felt like a huge commercial for the toys that were coming out. And
if this was a thread or Facebook chat, this is the point where I would link you to sell toys from TFWiki. Like, it's always been to sell toys. That doesn't mean it can't be good, though.
Except for Earthrise, where most of the Earthrise toys just weren't in the series.
Oh, I've got lots of things to discuss about that later on.
So
Or now.
Should we go
sure.
through?
What
Why
were
is
you
he a
gonna say?
kingdom toy? Why is Rodimus a kingdom toy? I'm sure Hasbro has reasons, but you've got Studio Series. Again, it doesn't matter. I'll put them on my shelf where I want to put them, but it's just like, there was this big thought that like certain characters looked a certain way. Like a lot of people said, why does HasLab Unicron look like this and not more closely to the 86 movie? Like, oh, well, this is how he's going to look in Kingdom. No, you just see faint claws and his planet form, but you never see his robot mode. So there was a lot of discussion of why did certain toys look like this? Oh, because that's how they're going to look like in the show, and then they're never in the show.
The reason why that toy's in Kingdom, I think, is the same reason that so I was listening to Microcrasters earlier today from a week or two ago or whatever, that Reveal the Shield Tracks wasn't in Generations, right? We want to make these toys. We have this many slots per line or subline, and we need to fill them up. And it's like, well, we don't have room in Studio Series. We have some room in this wave of Kingdom, so we're going to put it there. And you know what I mean?
I get it.
It's fine.
I do. It's not the end of the world. It just.
But if you were hoping to see those characters in the show, though, it can be a disappointment.
Well, I mean,
my son was greatly disappointed the fossilizers weren't in the show.
I mean, neither were the Micromasters.
No Micromasters, no Battle Masters, no Modulators, no Weaponizer except Cog.
No, Cog was in there, yeah.
Except Cog. And we'll get to Cog, because I need to talk about Cog, because we can't talk about the show without Christian talking about Cog.
So
you got a statue.
Do we want to go through all the voices real quick first?
No.
Get that out of the way? Well,
I mean, they're all bad, except Frank.
I thought Black Arachnia was good too.
Black Arachnia was good.
Black Arachnia was good. I like most of the Beast ones. Beast Wars Megatron was awful.
So, I don't think was bad. It's just, why is that Beast Wars Megatron?
Okay, that's a better point.
I don't want to insult the actor there, right? He's just completely miscast.
It's the wrong character.
Tigatron was miscast. Dinobot miscast. Ironhide miscast for his 2 lines. Ratchet miscast. Wheeljack was okay.
Yeah.
Bumblebee was good.
I've
liked Bumblebee the whole time. I mean, he's fine. He sounds like a Bumblebee to me. Cheater was fine, but it was just no character there.
He was a nobody. Yeah, he was.
Primal was
so bad.
They were doing the Ron Perlman
terrible
version of Primal, though.
It sounded.
I don't mind.
I don't know. I thought Primal was bad, and I thought Prime was still bad. And I don't know how much of that is that actor versus the direction or both.
Actor, and I guess it's both, because they keep doing the it takes 7 years to say sentence. Stop doing that.
You gotta pad the link out there, Christian.
That said, I want to get the actor for Optimus is Jake Fauci, and he does it in Cyberverse, I think, too. And he's doing an okay Peter Cullen impression, but I think he did better, or I accepted him better as Nemesis Prime. That character didn't have a lot of lines, but when he did speak, I thought that voice suited him more than it did an Optimus character.
He did better as Optimus on Cyberverse when he wasn't doing these really just so angsty. Shut the.
You don't have to shut up. Just spit it out.
But he
today, Junior.
Yeah, he gets so angsty and ragey, he loses the Cullen, and then he's just Growl Man.
I'm wondering if that's him or if that's the direction, because they're hey, this needs to last 28 minutes to 26 minutes. If you talk slower, we can do that. I'm sure that's part of it.
I wonder, just because it feels like something, though, that a voice director could clean up if they want. Right? You can say, yo, speed this up, and they're not, because they didn't do it for all 3, right? Like Megatron is a little slow, but he's not that anywhere near that. So I think Megatron was actually decent.
Megatron's been decent this whole time. He was from the last Prime Wars thing too, and he was the only highlight of that. So yeah, he's continued to do well for this series. They should keep him around.
better in Prime Wars than here. He seemed, especially like Earthrise. I noticed Megatron being just so long-winded.
He started off just as bad as Prime.
Yeah, he got
I'm
better.
guessing that has to be a direction thing. Then, if we're looking into it like that, it's got to be a direction.
Yeah, so like, I think most of our voice complaints come less from the talent behind the mic and much more on the director, which is something I've never thought about for my entire life. And it's like, man, every other cartoon I've watched doesn't have this problem of everyone is boring and sounds the same, you know? And it's like, oh yeah. And like, again, there's a couple which I think Prime and Primal personally being the worst. Soundwave is still bad just because of the effect on him. He's almost unintelligible. Yeah. And then so many of them were pointless unless like, oh, hey, I remember that guy from Beast Wars. Cool. The end.
Normally we can say that the Alita actress is pretty good, but they killed off that character off screen for no reason. I'm going to talk about that too. I think that's part of the okay, now we're done with this problem.
Before we get off voice actors real quick, are we sure the voice of Primal wasn't Cleveland from Family Guy? Because he totally says terrible. Just like Cleveland, multiple times. It's in my notes.
He said turtle twice. Yeah.
They're also from the future. He said that. It was in the trailer. And I was like, they've got to re-record that before this thing comes out. Nope. They shipped it.
I'm worried about like, not to get too PC or anything here, right? But like, am I being ableist or something about somebody that has a lisp? I mean, I think I have a little bit of a lisp or something. I don't hear it when I talk, but I hear it when I hear myself back. That's why I don't listen to myself. Like, but it's unless your character has a lisp, I don't know. It's just
probably don't do that. We don't cast someone who has.
Yeah,
I don't think he's got an issue. I think it's just
him doing that voice. It's just how it came out. It's weird. Either way, it's weird and it's bad and it's distracting.
I think the big thing for both Beast Wars Megs and Primal was that they kind of changed their characters. And so the voices didn't match what we're used to because neither did the characters match what we're used to. And I think especially Beast Wars Megs was
awful.
He was like a petulant, like teenage little kid trying to please like, his mentor. And it just was, it was not the David Cage grandiose, character that we're used to. It was this whiny little runt that, okay, cool. You turn into a T-Rex. That's pretty awesome. The rest of the time, I just, wish you didn't exist.
See, I don't know. I actually didn't mind the character outside of, like, if you're not thinking that it's Beast Wars, Megatron. I kind of, I thought it was somewhat of an interesting, like, story arc for me. I don't know. It was almost like the Tarn character in More Than Meets the Eye a little bit.
But Tarn is capable and confident, and this Beast Wars Megatron was a simpering fanboy who couldn't function without Daddy there to glorify and pat him on the head.
And if we take that a bit further, this dude is supposed to be the leader of the Predacons.
Yeah.
How has he not been murdered by any other Predacon at this point?
A few times over.
Yeah.
Right.
I do like Zaldron in the chat that said Primal is a war criminal. I'm like, they did allude to that. They did just pretty much say, like, you killed all these Predacons. And it's like, that Gary Chalk, I don't think, murdered that many Predacons, like in Cold Blood.
Well, because it was only like 4. But,
that's true. That's true.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking with Beast Wars Megatron. And, like, maybe that's a case, to your point, Lucas, where like somebody who didn't have any baggage of the previous existence would be like, oh, he was cool, whatever, not realizing that he's just so far off the mark. And if it didn't also look so much like the original Beast Wars character, maybe I could have distanced from it. Like the Unicron trilogy stuff, there's a bunch of name reuses in there, right? But they're obviously just slapping on names, right? Like they have so little to do with like Cliff Jumper. Like he's some big, huge thing.
Dude.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with it. But this was like obviously Beast Wars Megatron. Him trying to slip in a yes as a nod or whatever was just like, don't. What are you doing?
Just don't.
Dude. Like, I'm kind of mad. I hope he doesn't ever show up to a show, like, because I'm going to be a little mad at him, right?
And to go back to Sell Toys' point, Who's buying a $50 toy of some sycophantic whimpering toady? Nobody.
They bought that
Make
for the
him
awesome
cool.
David K version.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I
to
know they
Lucas's
can't
point,
get David K because he's in the union. They weren't hiring union dudes for this. I
Yeah.
get that. But, like, don't change the characters if you don't need to change the characters. I know this is me being old. We're all old and griping about it. Apparently a kid's show. Maybe. We'll see. But, like,
I don't think
dude,
so.
My kid
I'm-
did not enjoy it.
I mean, I think
just
it's a
gonna
teen
have
show.
This guy just say, and now Jim Cramer talks about how much he likes Chipotle, which if you watched last week tonight, that's where David K is doing this. This is David K now just exists in last week tonight because this kingdom killed Beast Wars Megatron.
I mean, I feel bad sometimes because I think it's a good idea for, I mean, it's a brand about change, right? Like literally physically changing. So like, you want to change some stuff up. I think, Peter Cullen needs to stop being Prime,
Sure.
and needed to a while back. Like let's move on. It's like you don't have to have this. Yeah, he did. Like, so
You know who did a really good Prime? Sorry. David K.
That's
like
where I
David
was
K.
getting.
Prime.
That's literally what I was about to say. Is like it's okay to rethink the characters and to reinvent them a bit, which David K did for animated. But it's obviously a different Prime. He's a completely different place, and they make it very clear. Where here it's just like, oh, there's Beast Wars Megatron. Oh, he's a simp. Literally, it's just like, oh, okay, and like we didn't get a time to grow into that because, as some people were saying in our chat here, like it's rushed in some aspects, even though Prime takes an hour to say anything. Can you imagine being behind that guy at like Starbucks? My God, so miserable. Oh, dude, you know how like every voice actor panel for BotCon for so long they asked them to do the drive-through order? Imagine it with that dude on the panel. Like it would take over like the next two panels before it would get out. But it's I don't even remember what I was talking about anymore.
Please
David
don't call
K.
that a being.
But yeah, I don't know. It just didn't work in this time. Maybe if we had a chance to see him be a character from, the flashback scenes into how but instead he's just like immediately like Megatron and bow down and everything. Like, it's like, how could you call yourself Megatron when you're this like subservient? You're just completely missing the point of your namesake. And he had no character development at all. So.
Speaking of character development.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Lucas.
Oh, I was gonna say, I just like wonder, who this show is really for, because of like the way that they handled it. Maybe they're trying to sprinkle in some stuff for, the people who've been fans forever that would go over the heads of new fans and whatnot. But like, that's where I think it's kind of weird is that like there's a bunch of stuff where you feel like you'd be lost if you hadn't like seen the show, but then they change enough stuff, that I think as a longtime fan you'd have a hard time with it. So I don't know who the show's like really for.
I have a theory about that, and I don't have a lot of modern comparisons. So I actually asked this in the text yesterday, and I didn't really get a reply. To me, this felt like what some modern day anime that I've seen feel like, where it is overly angsty. It is over the top in terms of the consequences are so significant, and yet like they try to make it feel so important and so significant, but they spend so much time trying to make everything feel so important, so significant that nothing feels important. And so that's where I'm thinking the audience is that because I think even Netflix might have even labeled this as an anime.
They did.
Yeah. So they're going after that anime audience that are used to things being so consequential and grandiose and like that. It just had that vibe to me, which didn't mesh with the animation style and didn't mesh with in general a G1 kind of Transformers aesthetic.
Or Beast Wars for that matter.
Yeah.
Both G1 and Beast Wars had a lot of humor and levity to them, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, especially in the 80s, like almost nothing was serious in the 80s, right? Until like the Transformers movie was pretty serious, but comparatively, but
Until they
like,
killed Optimus Prime.
yeah. But, you know, they have a lot of humor, and it made me wonder if, as an older person, I prefer serial stories, right? But I think when I'm watching cartoons, it's not the case. Like, that's part of what I really liked about, especially like the last 2 seasons of Beast Wars, is, you know, there's it's a standard thing, right? Where there's kind of more of a season arc, you know, like there's somewhere they're going, right? But the episodes still have just, you know, kind of other events that are happening that are resolved within the episode. But that gives them a chance to breathe and gives them a chance to be lighthearted, and not everything has to be grim, dark, save the universe every single episode for all 3 seasons. You know, and we've mentioned that before about all of them. There's no humor in any of it. Rat Trap got a little bit of humor in this one, but I think you would miss it if you didn't know who Rat Trap was and was looking for it, because it's so brief, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if it's a case of if we had an actual ongoing series, you know, that maybe we could have gotten some of that. But since they didn't, they had, you know, here's 3 seasons of, you know, overarching story arc that we're going to jam into 6 episodes, and here's what we got.
Yeah, but they didn't even carry through what they made. And I guess let's now start on stuff that's here and okay, now we're done with it. I think the most egregious example of that is going to be the Alita 1 and Jetfire, Red Alert, Chromia crew making an alliance with the remaining Decepticons on Cybertron. That looked like it was going to go someplace at the end of Earthrise, and then they're just dead. They're just dead now.
That felt 100% like a time thing to me. They were like, we don't have time, you know, or a show, you know, another show to say, hey, here's what's going back on Cybertron. And since now it's like, yo, you're in time travel. Turns out they all died. They all killed each other because they ran out of energy.
The stupid Allspark Forest for like 4 episodes. I'm sure they could have cut one of those out and gone back to Cybertron.
Nope.
I mean,
nope. Impossible.
I think overall, like with this, is that, you know, we all complain. We're like, oh, where's our like G1 Transformers show or whatever? And so they're like, here's X amount of budget. Like, we can only do it for this amount of budget, whatever. And then they're really devoting the resources to the movie or to Cyberverse or like whatever it may be, rather than these shows.
That excuse would have worked and did work for the Prime Wars trilogy. We're 6 years into this mess now, and we're in the same exact point we were back then. Lackluster, poorly written, poorly developed show. 2 cell toys that weren't in the show, and everyone's left, including kids. My kid did not enjoy this show. Everyone's left at the end feeling fiddle-dee-dee. When's the next show? Will there be one? This thing premiered at number 5 on Netflix. Come on, guys, do better.
I will admit, I fell asleep in a lot of these episodes while I was watching them. And my son was watching with me. My son's 6, about to turn 7. He would ask me questions, and there were times where it's like either A, I had fallen asleep and him asking me the question woke me up, and I did not know the answer, or B, I just didn't understand what was going on and still didn't know the answer. It's like, you know, Papa, what's that? I don't know. I did like, what are they doing now? Like, I don't know. I felt very lost. And again, you know, the show, like I admit, I am an old man that falls asleep relatively easily, but it should not be in front of a cartoon of like my favorite property, you know, that's out there. I should not be dozing off, you know, during this, but it just did not hold my interest. And I just did not know what was going on so often. And I wasn't like flat out falling asleep for 20 minutes at a time. It'd be like dozing off for like 5 or 10 seconds, and then head would bob back up, and I'd you know, all right, what's going on? What did I miss? And like, I don't know if I missed significant things or just, again, things. There were so many things there were so many MacGuffins and so many things that were consequential that nothing felt consequential. I just didn't care.
And that's thematically the way the movies are typically handled. Chase the thing to find the thing to get to the thing so we can go to the thing so that the thing can resolve the big thing. And just you're zipping and zapping from one place to another. It's just as long as there's action, you won't notice that nothing works. It's like the most recent Star Wars trilogy.
But at least in terms of the movies, the action sequences were exciting enough to sometimes get you to feel like, okay, I can stop caring. Like the Fast and the Furious franchise has gotten to the point where they've just said, we're going to make this thing so over the top that you just don't care because it's going to be so nonsensical and over the top that you just will stop caring about things having to make sense. This didn't make sense, and it was slow and painful.
I'm going to break from the crowd a little bit. Like, I got a bunch of gripes because you've heard a bunch, and I'm going to have a bunch more. But like, I think I enjoyed it. Like at the end of the day, I think I actually enjoyed Kingdom. I did not enjoy the first two.
Mute him, Lucas. He's not allowed to talk anymore.
Like the first two were, I mean, they were meh. Like overall, like I didn't think they were the worst things ever. Right? They were just meh. Yeah. This one I think I liked more than I disliked. You know, like I thought a lot of it was enjoyable, but I think it was just because the beasts were there, and I kept wanting more out of that and thinking it was going to happen. And like, you know, anytime that like Rat Trap, I'm like, oh, is Rat Trap going to talk and do something rat trappy? And the answer was no, most of the time. But he's just going to be standing there. But maybe that was why.
I think I'm with you, but one tier down.
Yeah, like yeah, let's be clear here. It's not
bad, and I thought Kingdom was meh.
Yeah, like to be clear, I'm not like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I still think the last really good show was animated. And I thought Prime was okay. The beginning of Prime was pretty boring, but the last part I thought was interesting. To your MacGuffin point, that was another one of my notes. Jesus Christ! Like I'm not a writer, but MacGuffins are sometimes kind of a bit of a weak part of storytelling. I mean, sometimes they're good, and you only get sometimes like the Tarantino movie where like it's literally a MacGuffin to be a MacGuffin, and it's pretty obvious it's a MacGuffin. Yeah, you know, like that's, you know, kind of leaning into it, like, you know, it's tongue in cheek. But honestly, the whole trilogy is all MacGuffin. There's very little plot that moves forward because of characters, which is bad. And maybe that's overall why we're just kind of like, on this.
I did love the part where Megatron tried to like actually collect all the MacGuffins together. It was like, if only I get the golden disc and the Matrix and the Allspark and the whatever something else
in the dead universe with Black Arachnia's disc reading web thing that she made, and Dinobot's ghost too, and then I'll have all the power.
Wasn't there an episode of G.I. Joe where they were chasing something that was literally called the MacGuffin device? I think there was in the first full season. I gotta look it up. Oh, props to Hasbro for repping up the G.I. Joe movie over the weekend and like advertising it and putting it out there so that it fucking bombed. Thanks, guys. We're here with you. We support you. Thanks for supporting your crown jewel property.
So back to Transformers. Instead of Snake Eyes that they tried to pretend wasn't even a G.I. Joe movie because they're like, don't tell people that it'll make it worse. But this one is the culmination of a trilogy, right? And so all the MacGuffins that built up in the first two, yeah, air quotes on trilogy, but they shoved everything that was like in like from 4 or 5 other cartoon series and like 2 comic book series, like big sweeping things that are very important to those, and they just shoved them all into 6 episodes. You know, like what was it? Matrix, Allspark, Dead Universe, Unicron, Time Travel, Golden Disc. Like, my God, stop
Force
it.
Ghosts.
This isn't a blender. Like, pick one and make it cool. You know, let it grow instead of like, oh, here's literally every throwback that the entire franchise has ever had. Like, I'm surprised the Underbase didn't show up. Maybe some Cosmic Rust is eating them all, too, while they're at it, right? Crimzeek is there. He's Unicron's minion, Run. I mean, just
Scraplets, cause
Well, or in the
rust.
depths,
Yeah.
just pops out of the volcano.
There he goes.
Like,
Goes back down.
But that's always like my complaint about the movies too, is they cram all this stuff and all these MacGuffins, and then the Bumblebee movie they finally like did it right, and then they're gonna just go back to doing huge spectacle MacGuffin chasing. So I don't know. I actually enjoyed Kingdom. I think the first couple episodes were a little bit tough, and like it was kind of hard to follow. Like, is there setting up? But like the last one's like I don't know. I actually enjoyed it, and it. I think that I don't know, any Transformers stuff I'm probably gonna watch anyway. But I don't know. I enjoyed the end. I thought it wasn't bad. I might actually kind of recommend it, to someone. Like, don't watch the first two parts of the trilogy, but this last one wasn't bad.
So, talking about the last couple episodes, another thing that they were just like, and this is over now. Arky showed up. Arky transformed. He punched the Nemesis, which did not transform, and then he was just like gone. And then they had this whole big climactic thing at the end where the Autobots and the Predacons and the Maximals and Decepticons are all together. They're going to fight against Galvatron and Nemesis Prime. And guess who's not there anymore? Arky. He's gone. Like, maybe get the giant dude who could help you? No, just leave him.
my planet needs me.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a bit of a waste in the same way that Scorponok was a bit of a waste.
They gave him a character a little bit. They're like, oh,
They even set him up in the
they
first
set him
episode. They're like, oh, something's happening with Teletran. Oh, and they set it up like, oh, it's going to be big.
I mean, it was
like,
big. It's just
I was in the
6
dead
episodes.
universe
They didn't
and
have
knew
time
that
for it
at
to
this
matter.
moment I would be needed. So I've spent all this time reconfiguring myself. How do you have sapience? I want to know. And 2, like, you could have told somebody. And 3, like, this is it. This one moment and it's over. Okay,
and what
I
did he
guess.
do? He saved Megatron. That's what he did.
That's what he did.
Instead of just letting the bastard fall into lava or whatever. Thanks.
Thanks.
Great.
Does anyone else
job,
feel
Arky.
like the last episode felt really out of place? And maybe if they didn't go back to Cybertron and fight,
I didn't even
Unicron
know
and
they had
Nemesis.
made it back to Cybertron.
Yeah, it was Cybertron like in the winter. It was like Upper Peninsula Cybertron.
I was like, oh, cool. We're finally going to see our friend. Oh, they're all dead now. We already talked about that. Speaking of people who are dead or not, 3 ships crashed to Earth. The Ark, the Nemesis, and the Quintesson thing piloted by Cog. 2 of those ships survived. Where's the third one?
No
It's
mention
my
of
boy
the third
Cog.
one.
Cog is alive.
I have no recollection of what you're talking about, even remotely.
Cog
Cool.
saved everyone at the end of
Cog
Earthrise.
saved everyone.
Everyone. And like, go ahead.
I was on the show when we discussed Earthrise. I literally remembered none of it. I don't remember a fucking thing. I just remember that they were
took
going to
over
Earth.
the Quintesson
That's
ship, and it was going down. And he was fighting off Decius as they were crashing. Cog is
They died.
already the best robot in disguise there has ever been in the history of Transformers. That's it. He is. You will never convince me otherwise. And then they commemorated his awesomeness with a giant-ass statue at the end. Like, Cog is the best. He's the breakout star from
Wait,
this
was he the
show.
one on the other side of Ultra Magnus on that statue?
No, it was him and Scrapface.
Yeah, it
and
was
then
a reflector,
Scrapface,
assumingly it was Scrapface, and then a Cog. Yeah, it's
Oh.
the models that were used the most got statues.
Here's our red shirts.
it was weird. Like, they're there, I guess, probably.
No, they're dead now. They died. He died.
Like Alita and Jetfire and Scrapface. Okay, we're dead now.
But to Phil's point, they did the episodes 1 through 5 were whatever, we're doing BC stuff, and then it just like hard shift, like Arky happened, and then hard shift, we're over here in Escanaba and Moonlight up there with the whatever the hell was going on Cybertron versus Galvatron and Nemesis Prime doing Duh.
Were they trying to get away from Unicron, or were they trying to prepare stuff for Unicron? I don't know if they were with him or against him.
They didn't know Unicron existed. They didn't believe Starscream. They thought it was crazy.
No, Galvatron.
No.
Who's they?
Galvatron and Nemesis. Yeah, they were flipping and flopping.
What was their objective?
Yeah.
Like
They were trying to get the Allspark to destroy Unicron. That's what they were going.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I actually like that idea because we have Megatron turning to Galvatron. That's been a thing forever. But Prime turning into Nemesis Prime as a result of the same thing. I like that parallelism, and I like that they would eventually team up and try and take out Unicron. Like I'm good with that as a story element.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Were the Predacons followers of Galvatron?
No, they were followers of Megatron.
Okay. Because they kept saying that, like, they alluded that the Maximals were following Nemesis. And
they've been fighting Nemesis.
They're fighting Nemesis.
They were fighting Nemesis, but I also thought that they said that they were following Nemesis at one point. Like at one point they were, and again, I was not always conscious during all this. I thought there were parts when Beast Wars Megs and Primal were fighting that Beast Wars Megs was like, you sided with Nemesis, and then I guess they turned against Nemesis.
Oh, no, that's because everyone at the beginning couple episodes was mistaking Optimus for Nemesis.
No, I think that
that's why Primal
originally
shouts it like over and over and over again while he's beating Optimus in the first episode.
I think Primal might have sided with Nemesis at some point. They kept alluding to that.
And that's why I was confused, because I thought that the Predacons were following Galvatron at some point. That's why they had the golden disc. And then, like, wait, if Galvatron and Nemesis are working together, why are Galvatron's forces fighting Nemesis' forces? But I could just have been unconscious and confused.
No, you're doing that thing where you're trying to read too much into them, trying to, like, make the plot ultra cool, but it doesn't work because it's either not explained or not logical in any way. Because like when Starscream gets his revelation, he keeps talking about that's what he wants. He wants you to go back. And I don't know if I thought at first he meant Unicron, and now I'm thinking maybe he meant Galvatron, but I don't know. He's like, he set it all up to begin with. Why?
That should be Unicron.
Okay.
I think it was Unicron. That's that puzzle box idea. We just be vague and be like, enigmatic about it, and everyone will be like, oh, I wonder what's happening next, and I wonder where this will go, and then it went nowhere. Yeah.
Like if Unicron had set, the Transformers up to always hate each other and fight each other, what's the goal there?
Well, that goes back to the universe conflict from 2003, where the cauldron and the hate and the blah blah blah. That makes sense,
but they're not doing that.
They're not doing that, and if they would have just had a throwaway line to say that Unicron feeds off of hate, and so he's set all this up so that we all fight, that would work.
That'd be something.
It would be weak, but it would be a nice through line where we just keep fighting no matter what, and it exists, and it helps to explain away all the freaking nonsense. But no,
that would work well because they win when they unify,
right?
Which they do at the end.
Yeah.
Also, one thing I actually do like is that they wrapped Earth on episode 5. I actually like that because then they got back to Cybertron. It's like it does that thing again. It's not unique where it's like the penultimate episode and everything looks good until like the last 30 seconds. You're like, oh, there's going to be one last hiccup before this goes, and I kind of enjoy that because that makes where the last episode isn't just a wedding episode, right? Like they get time to let it settle in a little bit that the main conflict is over. And then they get to tie up the loose ends in theory, which here the loose ends was, all those other characters were dead. Phew, glad we mentioned that, we almost forgot, but we got it. So I don't know. I liked that personally. It felt the Beast Wars characters became even less important at that point. But they were only half important to begin with. So
I still need my 3-pack of generic cogs.
The boy I
red
mentioned
cog,
that.
green cog, and yellow cog.
I mentioned that
Your boy
idea.
Your boy's a good boy.
You said it's a good idea. He's on board. So yeah.
Oh, did you guys realize that Astrotrain was on Earth the whole time?
And he shrank?
Like when they're capturing them, all of a sudden Astrotrain's.
Talk about that before.
Astro Train's in the line going into it, and then he shows up on Cybertron too at the end, and it's just like he was there literally in no parts where they fight. And wasn't he huge at the end of Earthrise? I thought he was. I thought
I don't think he was huge. I think he was just close to the camera against Omega. Like, he wasn't huge. It's just a weird perspective thing.
But how is he then left back on Cybertron and Earthrise, and now he's on Earth in Kingdom?
Well, that's just where you don't ask questions.
Time travel,
Time travel?
universe.
He's a clone. He's a big clone.
That's Space Bus. Not
Astro
Astro
Train
Train.
the Tom Cruise. Is Astro Train the Tom Cruise of Transformers, where he's like always up closer to the camera to make him look bigger than everybody else?
Well, and you know what? The toy has the lifts. So, yeah.
Oh my God, you're right.
He does. Does Astro Train also have a middle tooth? That's the question. Because if so, Astro Cruise. I think we're getting somewhere, guys.
Lining up too much.
I feel like that's who
The Scientologists
Astro Train
are doing
becomes when
it.
He retires. Astro Train retires and becomes like a space cruise ship. As is like that's just what he does. Is his job.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys caught this, but when in the last episode, Bumblebees and they come upon, I don't know, whatever something was, and like, who could have done this? Only you are as powerful to do that. And Prime's like, yeah, it had to be me. And then Nemesis shows up. That's his introduction, right? Prime's superpower is making trenches. Well, what?
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck did I miss that? And no one else can dig a trench either. Like, that's Optimus Prime's superpower is a fucking ditch digger. What the? I do not understand that.
He just like carved out a chunk of the planet with the Matrix or something. I don't know. I don't care.
It's just the dumbest line. Like, oh, look at this big ditch. Prime must have been here. What the fuck? It was just the dumbest thing, and it jumped at me. And like now it's forever going to be in my personal canon that Prime is the ultimate ditch digger. Only him. Only you can dig ditches, Prime. We have to dig this ditch.
Needs ditch diggers.
I don't know.
I didn't like Bumblebee in that sequence, though.
I thought Bumblebee was good. I liked Bumblebee.
Yeah.
I liked the whole. There's this Matrix side, which is the spiritual bit, and there's that Alpha Trion thing.
Oh, that's
the
the other
military
thing. About the Alpha Trion protocols.
Well, because they killed it, and they were like, "It's the big deal," and they're like, "No, it's gone now."
Yeah.
We have 8 other
common theme throughout this
MacGuffins
series.
and things in here, plus time travel to
They
get
called
into
back
this.
to it. I like that B was there, and he kind of grew throughout the thing. And Optimus was like, "You've got to lead the Autobots if I die." And it's like, okay, he can do it probably, but he's going to have his own story. It's going to be tough, but he didn't have to do it. And he was there to introduce some levity to Prime being crazy because Prime is crazy all the time. And yeah, it's good stuff.
He had a voice the whole time.
He did. That's unusual these days.
Yep.
Go ahead. I've talked enough.
Oh, the boy mentioned the Alpha Trion protocols when they were that whole scene. He's like, "Hey, do you remember that?" He turned around and he's like, "Hey, do you remember that?" I was like, "Do I remember what?" He's like, "The Alpha Trion protocols, where Alpha Trion's wishes came true and Bumblebee became the leader of the Autobots somehow if Prime dies." And I was like, "No, I don't remember any of what's going on in this show." He's like, I don't know." It's like, okay, cool. And I went back to building the desk.
I think that could have been a fun idea because it makes it so the Autobots aren't this unilaterally Optimus leads everything all the time organization, which I think is always better. Like in animated where, yeah, Magnus is in charge, but also there's the council that's very involved. And you have various primes that have their own things. Like it's an organization rather than like a dictatorship. Not that any of the Optimuses that are supreme commanders have ever been dictators. It's just there's organization.
So are they elected?
They were
They're
chosen
elected
by
a MacGuffin.
Alpha Trion.
So
Anyway, like I said, I liked that there were two mystical things, but one was the knowledge and one was the power, and then you can't ever have them both.
But I thought the Matrix was also the receptacle of knowledge. I mean, I don't know if it is in this instance.
No,
but
the Matrix is the knowledge, and the power one is the Alpha Trion protocols, and then they just killed them.
okay, I don't know.
Yeah, dude, Siege was a long time ago. It was a year ago. Do you remember how excited we were when this was coming? We're like, man, it's finally going to be
No.
a show for us. We're going to like it.
I was
It's
never
not going to be
excited.
Prime Wars.
I was
knew
worried
better.
that it was going to be Prime Wars.
It was better than Prime
It
Wars.
was a little bit
It was
better
than Prime Wars ultimately, so that's a success. But at the same time, it was still super lacking. If you're not hitting the target demographic, you know, the 7-year-olds don't know what's going on. The 13-year-olds think this is freaking ridiculous, and the old men who love this series to death think it's dumb.
But we watched it.
But we all watched it, and it still came in 5th. Way to go, Transformers!
I don't know if that's good or bad. Is fit like you know, fifth
It
for all
seems
Netflix,
bad.
fifth for kids.
It's 5th. It was like 5th in premieres on Netflix over the weekend. But I don't know what demo they were aiming at, whether it was, you know, anime only or just
Yeah.
premieres for the weekend or
When I
what.
finally watched it, it told me it was number 10 in kids. But I watched it. I didn't watch it till like Saturday or Sunday, like the first
Okay.
episode.
been-
Something like that.
We binged it on Friday and it said number 5 in premieres or something like that.
That was probably. I don't know. That's probably better than Transformers usually does.
Not
I bet
as
you the
well as
first
He-Man
one did
did.
better.
He-Man had Kevin Smith and Mark Hamill, and
Hell of a voice.
And
a
a
actor.
lot more
story and
controversy.
Character and
that's because of their fandom is even worse than ours somehow.
Well, yeah,
Oh.
but I just wonder on some of that stuff is like maybe that helps out a little bit because people are like, oh, I've got to watch it now, so I have an opinion. And
Yeah,
Oh.
I saw friends of mine on Facebook like making random He-Man like questions and comments, and I was like, "Yeah, there's the new show and blah blah blah," and they're like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll check it out." Like, no one that I know that's not a Transformers fan has commented at all about this trilogy.
right.
They're not going to.
No.
One thing that Kingdom really showed me, because like there was a couple times I got kind of excited watching this, like G1, you know, versus or with Beast Wars. Holy crap, that has so much potential.
Yeah,
That has so much chance there to be just super duper cool. And like when I saw them all fighting together, I that still excites me. Like
yeah.
it wasn't well done, unfortunately. But like when Cheater faced off against Ravage, I was just like, oh shit, here it comes, and then Tigertron comes out of nowhere and it was over, and I was like, fuck. But like that was for that moment there, I was just like, oh, that's kick ass, right? Too bad that Cheater had no characterization, even though he says Big Bot at one point. That again, that's just a nod to us. But like exactly, like that would have been so cool, and just seeing the Decepticons versus the Maximals, I don't know, that was really cool. It could have been so much more. And if you gave me, you know, what is it, like 23 episode cartoon of those two trying to live on Earth and like fighting and battling it out, or, you know, maybe even 12, but like that's the thing, quit trying to do all this other bullshit. Like I bet that could be done super cool. You know, it wasn't here.
I want to watch a series of Black Arachnia and Starscream
Yep.
trying to
Right?
overtake a PTA.
Yeah, I thought they worked well together. They're similar characters that make sense, but
Yeah,
it's
And
never had an opportunity to happen before.
It was
well, they
super
worked
good.
they worked
That was
together
good.
in Possession. That was episode 21 or whatever.
True.
Those were the two characters that linked up the first and last time they met.
But yeah, so I don't know. G1 and Beast Wars together, just maybe that's part of the reason that animated worked as well as it did too. Like, I mean, it wasn't exactly that, obviously, but you know, that was also kind of like where they were like, okay, you know what, our cartoons are not necessarily just vehicles, just beasts. You know, well, I guess Red did that too, technically. You know, so maybe that isn't. But then they went away for it for so long with Unicron trilogy.
Unicron trilogy
Cybertron
had
has
some
them both.
beasts.
Did it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I could. I had a
Energon and
couple.
Cybertron has them both.
yeah, Dive Bomb and Cruel Lock and
I don't know. It doesn't feel the same.
Cybertron.
yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
Cheater
yeah.
versus
Robotic.
Ravage could have been so
Catherine,
good.
I'm going to disagree with what she just said in the chat. Go for it, Lucas. Explain.
I was gonna say,
my God.
Catherine's doing a shot across the bow right here. She says this trilogy is better than G1.
This trilogy doesn't exist without G1. The franchise doesn't exist without
You
G1.
have to have watched G1 to understand half what's going on the show. So, no.
I don't
And
know
Beast
if I
Wars.
100% disagree with her. Like, if you didn't watch G1 as a kid and you watched a G1 episode now and you watch this trilogy now, this show has better animation. You know, it's better produced. But I think the one thing that's drastically different between the two that G1 had much better was better characters. They were simple. They were archetypes. They didn't have any character arcs to them because they didn't need the character arcs because they were just set characters that, you know, filled spot X in whatever roster they were making for that episode.
When G1 was bad, it's really bad. Like the
Yeah.
animation is terrible, the plot is nonsensical. But
Tell me you don't
G1
want
has-
C minor, Rob?
G1,
In Carnage and C minor, I can understand what Soundwave's saying, and the characters are more fun than anything that's going on in this.
You're
But-
right.
but G1 is memorable. You can watch it today, and why does Sea Spray have an episode dedicated to him falling in love with a human woman? I don't know, but I still remember that. Right?
She's a
Like,
mermaid.
like, okay, you got me. But I just watched Earthrise a year ago or whatever that was, and I've already forgotten every bit of it. Like
I've
I'll
already
remember,
forgotten big chunks of Kingdom.
I will remember maybe a scene or two from Kingdom, right? Like, you know, when it's all said and done. You know, it's just G1 was a very different era. You know, they made cartoons differently. This was 3 6-episode miniseries shoved together.
But
Like,
see, I
she-
mean, I think Transformers the movie was definitely better than this, which they will be discussing on Book Club on Sunday. So if you want to come discuss that, that's going to be at 8:30 Central on the Discord, because
Can't help but realize that Transformers the movie is not a book.
you know what? Hey, they're branching out. Okay, it's a book.
That's what
now.
cult- Yeah. Something else that'll stick with me from Kingdom that I'll remember is when we were having the cool fight scene, which, you know, again, it didn't deliver as near as much as it could have, but I still was happy for what we got. Anybody versus Rhinox really cracked me up. Megatron fucking throws him.
Yes.
He just picks him up and throws him, and it was hilarious. And later on, Cybertron, I think it's Galvatron takes him and like flips him over and throws him again. And Rhinox is he's a rhino, and he's just getting tossed around like
He's
a
also
paperweight.
like the best fighter the Maximals have.
Nope.
Traditionally, not now, apparently.
But I don't know. That was hilarious. I don't know. It just really cracked me up. You know,
I know.
that felt like the goofiness. Like, and they don't even draw attention to it, right? Like, I think they mean it to be serious, but it kind of reminded me a bit of that humor Beast Wars would have. Something like Waspinator always getting blown to bits, right? It's like if this was a 20-episode show, every fight Rhinox will start getting tossed like a big paperweight. That'll be his shtick.
Speaking of getting blown to bits, Primal destroyed Thundercracker, and then Thundercracker shows up like 3 more times. And I'm like, they were
He
like
sliced
so
his
intent
wing
at that.
off.
He sliced him in half, and
He did not. I
exploded.
watched it. He sliced his wing off.
I had no idea who he attacked. I was like, was that like a drone or something? I was like, what was that?
Nah, it was
I don't know.
Thundercracker.
I
was a
think it was supposed to
seeker.
be Thundercracker. I mean, they were really intense on some generic looking dude being Skywarp back in Siege, and they're like, "Oh, Skywarp's dead." Ugh. It's like, what was that Skywarp? He didn't really spend any time on that. And yeah, just now we're done with that. Primal murders Thundercracker, and then
He shows back up.
Murder him. He's like, fine, whatever.
He got better. Just a
But that's
fast
what I'm
food.
just like, after that scene, like, wait, Primal has these swords that can just cut through Transformers, and yet, you know, he can't defeat Beast Wars Megatron. He just slices legs off.
I mean, Optimus Prime is the best ditch digger known to man, and the Nemesis was still a problem for him. You know, like, why didn't he just go out and just cut it across?
There is just like such inconsistencies in so many levels, and like the power levels of these characters is definitely one of them.
You see, actually, they did it that way because that's how it is in G1. Okay? There.
And
Dude, I don't-
I'm trying to
I don't
figure
know.
out how is it that like they slice his wing off, whatever, and he's fine, but then like Dinobot like gets an arm cut off, or not even the whole arm, just part of it, and then it's, you know.
The
And
only reason
Skywarp got punched really hard, and that's how he died. Right? Didn't Jetfire punch him hard or something? It wasn't like he needs to die immediately, and then they're like, Skywarp is dead now. It's like, why is Skywarp dead now? I don't know.
the only
Plus,
reason
Cog or the generic Cogs get ripped apart every battle, and then they are fine later, I guess.
the
There's
only
just
reason
more of them.
Dinobot
They
died.
just have a cog factory in the back of the ark.
Oh, jeez, I don't want to think about that.
The only reason Dinobot died is because spoiler, it happened in the original Beast Wars series.
Supposed to die. Yeah.
That's it. You know, like if it didn't have any emotional weight, it didn't matter at all because it's such a. They're in 6 episodes with 20 other characters, and they just show up. You know, I mean, they kind of had a neat storyline or whatever, but it still didn't.
I don't know.
If
They
you
didn't
I enjoyed
earn what
that
they were
myself.
trying to buy with them.
That's the tagline for the entire fucking trilogy. They didn't earn what they were trying to sell.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ron brings up a good point of G1 versus War for Cybertron, that he could close his eyes and he would know who's talking in G1, and he can't say that for
Good point.
this new one.
Really
You
good
know
point.
when Prime is because it's putting you to sleep.
Yeah,
It's
because I was
meditation.
closing my eyes because he was just sending me into unconscious fits.
We need a War for Cybertron Optimus Prime at ASMR to fall asleep. Just 24 hours of that.
I will give the writers this though. Not a single character in a single episode uttered the phrase "this war." That was gone. They said it every other sentence in Siege and every sentence in Earthrise. Now it's gone, and the show is better for it. No one says "this war." They don't, and I'm happy. I couldn't be happier.
I don't know. I felt like you could
They
be happier.
way happier.
Oh, you know what'll make you way happier? I'll tell you. So, Air Razor saves Black Arachnia, and Black Arachnia gives it a little kiss on the cheek.
It was a
Rule 34. There's some good stuff coming up, guys. Rule
I'm
34.
sure.
You're going to be way happier. Peter, do you not know what Rule 34 is, or are you imagining what I'm talking about?
I can imagine what you're talking about.
Yeah, they just opened the door.
I'm honestly, I would be surprised if it didn't already exist. I mean, they've had 25 years to draw that up. Someone, you know, it's and any 2 characters can be shipped at any point in time. You don't need an actual point in the story, an actual like storyline to ship 2 characters.
Shopping at Mandarake or Jungle Shop or Yahoo is awash with just, you know, because I look at listings from cheap to expensive, and the cheapest things you can find on Yahoo Japan is just all the Dojin hentai stuff, shipping everyone. So have fun with that. I'm assuming that's what Rule 34 is, right?
It's if it exists, there's porn of it.
Okay.
That's Rule 34.
Okay.
Peter, you exist.
And
We are on the internet.
Hey-o.
So you're telling me there's something on Yahoo Japan of like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Darth Vader.
Oh no, I'm talking specifically Transformers. When you search for Transformers and just go all categories, search from cheapest to most expensive, all of the cheapest things. It's not accessories. It's not instruction booklets.
Well, I got weekend plans. I don't know about y'all.
Rob's like, I gotta go, guys. Have a good night. I'm signing off.
I hope I turned off my webcam. There's a Twitch streamer who didn't.
There's been more than just a Twitch streamer who didn't.
Yeah, it
There's
was
been
very embarrassed. But
multiple things, but
Yeah, the guy who worked for CNN and what, the New Yorker.
well, that's the end of my Transformer notes. That's everything I took.
yeah, I don't know.
I really like
I
the
thought
toys.
that this was. I thought overall that this was a high point of the series. It made me actually not like, you know, if they make another trilogy of this, I'll watch it. I was probably gonna watch it anyway, but I'm actually somewhat excited.
Oh,
for it.
that's
Can we get into spoilers? Like
we
the
had
ending?
spoilers the whole time.
Well, yeah, I know, but like the really just nitty gritty final
Yes.
scene. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, is jaw dropping, and I was just left aching for more. Unicron's gonna do something.
He reformatted them.
Yeah. So now they
Into-
could be anybody, anyway. Oh, it's thrilling.
Transformers Legacy Giltar.
Hey, I'm down with Giltar. That'd be cool. Been waiting for that toy for, I don't know, 45,000 years.
So speaking of the ending, like, there isn't anything else planned right now, right? Just typical writers.
We know about.
Okay.
The next Transformers media that we know about is Rise of the Beasts and some Cyberverse movies that we still don't have any more information on.
They're coming to Netflix in a couple of weeks. Fall.
Weeks or
Fall
months?
I mean,
I thought it was like
fewer
November.
months than weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the fall times.
Okay.
Also, the BotBot show is still happening.
Bot show, yeah.
Now,
Allegedly.
that's exciting, right, Christian? If you
That's very exciting.
Show.
I mean, if you think vaporware is exciting, sure. Sorry, Christian. I'm just telling it how it is, brother.
I'll murder you.
I'm not the one making the decisions. I'm just the one keeping it real. I have no opinion on it. I'm just saying that's how it is. Just like the rest of our fucking Micromaster teams.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're coming.
it's just-
Yes.
They're coming.
No, they're not.
They're designed. They're designed.
Yeah, well,
Sure.
No, the
Lots of
BotBot
stuff.
show has a page on Netflix. You can get to it. Like, it's happening.
Sure.
It'll be out next year.
So BotBox exists. So are there Rule 34s of BotBots?
You know that donut's DTF.
Oh,
The
God.
donuts
That's
and
nasty.
plunger.
No.
I did find out recently that there are oversized KOs of BotBots, and I've got to figure out if that's a hole that I want to go down.
Do it.
Nice phrasing.
Yeah.
I immediately noticed it. Christian immediately noticed. No one else did.
Oh, I did, but you were laughing, so I couldn't get a joke in. I had what I described to my wife as the log jam of comedy, where you have like 6 jokes in your head, all trying to vie for completion, and none of them do. So you just sit there like, haha, yeah.
So, can we do a log jamming joke? Because that's from Big Lebowski, and it's a movie they watch. It's on in the background at Jackie Treehorn's house.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the
Is that-
jerk
is
store
that one of
called.
them that
Where
he
are
has
you?
a dream about later on? Then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's after Jackie Treehorn. They knock him out or whatever, and he ends up in Malibu, stay out of my beachfront community, deadbeat. It's him in the head with a mug.
What you guys are talking about?
I
Oh,
don't either.
The Big Lebowski.
you owe
I
it
know
to
what
yourself.
that is, but
You owe it to yourself to watch
Have
it
you
from
ever
beginning
seen
to
it?
end.
Have you not seen it?
Watch.
You
I've
have
seen
spent
it.
6 hours.
I don't remember
watching
it.
Crappy Netflix Transformers cartoons. Watch 2 hours of The Big Lebowski, and you will feel much better about yourself.
okay.
He won't.
You should.
Might.
We had a
It's a
we had
classic.
we had a magic cable box when I was a kid. My dad came home with it. It was just everything was on it. We can get to everything. And Big Lebowski was on one of the pay-per-view channels just nonstop for like 3 weeks. So I watched it over and over and over and over and over. There are a bunch of things. So anyway, yeah. So
So back to the shows. I don't want more Transformers shows like this. Like, I know they're trying to cliffhang and trying to make him come back and do stuff with Unicron, and no, please don't do it anymore. No, get rid of DeSanto, get rid of the Rooster Teeth people, get rid of anyone who wrote this, hire some real actors, let Frank join a union so that he can get paid for real.
On the other
I
hand,
don't wanna say- I don't
if
wanna
Frank
say
wasn't in the
hire-
union, he wouldn't have been in this show, and we wouldn't have gotten to enjoy him.
yeah.
I don't want to
No,
say
he
hire
wasn't,
real
he would be
actors,
the
because these
truth.
were real actors. Again, I think,
Yeah.
as we pointed out, it's more the voice director that should be not allowed to work on Transformers again.
Should be ashamed.
There's
Someone
talent
needs to
at
write them a
Polygon.
sternly worded letter.
Like I mentioned earlier, Pacific Rim: The Black. It's not perfect. It's not, but the voice acting is good. The voice direction, I guess, is good because everybody has a different voice and they have their own characters. The writing is good. There's stakes that happen. There's humor that happens. They have a MacGuffin, but it's kind of like mysterious, and they don't give everything away before this season ends. It's a similar 6-episode deal. Transformers could and should have been something closer to that, and it wasn't. So there's talent there at Polygon, and I think they're an okay partner to continue using. You've got to get better writers. Probably that just means put some more budget into it. Because they probably got the best-ish of who they could get with what they were willing to pay.
I mean, I just think
probably next to nothing.
I have to place it at Frank DeSanto. I know nothing about him. I don't know who he is, but it seems like, kind of his show, right? Or his trilogy. So I place most of that at him. Because I feel like at any point he could have said, Prime, speak faster, Jesus Christ. Come on. This is terrible.
Yeah,
and
he wears a lot of scars. Although he quit wearing scars recently, so I don't know what that's about.
I don't know. Maybe it got to be like 90 degrees in LA versus 80.
Who knows?
Yeah, so if Hasbro does another show that they say, hey, is aimed at a more mature audience, which just means, it's not like, the 0 to 10 age or whatever Rescue Bots is, right? Or Cyberverse. It's something, a step up from that.
They can say, damn it.
Yeah, they can say, damn it. Didn't they say shit in the first one, I think?
Yeah.
I thought there was a shit.
They've said
but there's some vague swears, right? But if they want to keep doing that, that's cool. But that doesn't mean it has to be forced grimdark, right? Because it's just it loses all the life of it, and that's kind of like my biggest takeaway from the trilogy is that there were a lot of chances to explore some cool stuff, and it was squandered because it had to be grimdark slog fest, trudging through a lot of it until they got beasts in there, at which point then it's like you have too many characters that you can't enjoy any of them. And we tried to enjoy a few of them, and I thought there were some moments. Rat Trap was fun moments. When they actually did fight Beast Wars versus G1, those little bits were fun. There just wasn't a lot of it. Then the rest was back to the grim dark. Everything is way too important. Here's 800 Transformer concepts all shoved into, just a couple of episodes. And just, suffered for it. That's my final thoughts on it.
See, would you rather see, though, like, some of the things they're doing in the comics these days? Like, they're doing that new Wreckers that, some people are upset about. Or they're doing, like, Transformers with My Little Pony. And so, like, they're doing different things. I'm not necessarily saying that I agree that I want to see that, necessarily. But, like, I would rather see some of those types of things than just retreading all the same thing and making it where it's like just a blah show that I never want to actually like go back and watch. Like I'd rather see them take new chances, like the BotBot show. I'm more excited for that just because it's going to be something different, something new, versus just regurgitating 35 years of stuff.
I'm not reading any of the new comics personally. I think I'm done with Transformer comics. But I'm kind of done with comics
too, until they change it up again.
Like I'm reading the Ninja Turtles, the Last Ronin series, because that's like based on Peter and Leigh or something they wrote like forever ago, or whatever. But like that's it. Like I'm not reading any comics. Period.
I don't know how to read.
Yeah, what would you want in a cartoon? Peter?
Oh, I'm cranky old man. I really liked animated. I really, really like G1, including all the Japanese weirdo stuff. And Beast Wars, of course, is just Beast Wars, not Beast Machines, is just brilliant. This felt like, no offense to Christian, this felt like the level of writing from Unicron Trilogy with the level of animation from Cybertron, which I enjoyed. But it's not great. It's not fun. And I don't know what I want. I guess I should say I know what I don't want, and it's this. And that makes me sad because Transformers is my favorite thing.
So if the toy line can't get away from retreading G1 over and over, does that mean it's impossible for us to get a show that isn't a retread? Can they take these that look just like their G1 counterparts in a lot of cases, or the G1 version of Beast Wars, right? Like the original look there, and give us something new with it? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of it's got to be, it's synchronicity. You have to have Hasbro on board with the toys doing whatever the toys are doing, and the right production crew on board doing a cartoon based on those toys. We've seen where they've done a cartoon that is not matching what's going on with the toys, or a toy line that's not going on with whatever is happening in Media Land, and they'll both fall flat, and then Hasbro will blame the non-talking hands, your left hand's not talking to the right hand, for the reason for whichever side is failing. So they did have some synchronicity here, but they didn't optimize it as best they could with Earthrise. Siege did a pretty good job. The toys that we saw, or the characters we saw on Siege on screen, were the toys for the most part that we saw on store shelves. Earthrise was bungled completely, and then Kingdom kind of fixed it. Because there is some, when you can find toys at retail, there are Beast toys. There's no Inferno, there's no Trax, there's no, whatever. That no Cyclonus, no Rodimus, fine. No Arc yet. He's dropping, but he got 14 seconds of screen time. Yeah. So I mean, there's some synchronicity there, but if the storytelling can't get away with just like the same tired beats, and the toy line doesn't want to get away because we still are chasing those perfect versions of those characters, this is the last Trax I'll ever need. Well, aside from you.
I bought Zero Kingdom toys.
So a lot of us are still chasing, this is the last Trax I'm going to buy because this is better. That's the last Cyclonus I'm going to buy until they redeco him and paint his chin properly and put the pinks on him instead of the silvers because that one's colored wrong.
Those y'all saying this is the last X I'm ever going to buy are just lying to yourselves.
It's a trick.
How many times do you have to keep doing that to believe that?
Yeah,
we're talking about they can't make better animated toys. The other day, you're wrong. They can. I don't know what it is, but when they do it, I'll be like, oh wow, that is way better. I don't need it today. Like I'm very happy with the animated toys, and I'm content, to never get them again. But they can always do it better.
Well, that's why Studio Series continues to sell out because it is the best version to date of X character. And the next time they do Grindor or Brawl or Brawler or Flumpy, I don't know these characters' names, they're gonna do a better version with ankle tilts now and fingers that go hoodly doo instead of hoddly da, and
But she has a new hat.
Exactly, new hat, Malibu Stacy, and G1.
Well, one thing I would say is that Catherine says like she feels like we're in a second golden age for the franchise, and I do agree, and I think that part of the thing with this show, Hasbro doesn't necessarily really need this show. They're not putting all of their eggs in this show's basket. Like, this is one show among many things. So it's like there's comics, there's the Cyberverse show, and the movie's coming out with that. There's a BotBot show. There's a movie that's going to be the big thing that they're trying to, really go towards and whatnot. And so, like, they don't this is just like a thing to kind of bridge the gap to the next thing, whereas I feel like the Voltron show that we all loved, or She-Ra and some of those types of things, like those properties, like that's the one thing that you could really watch from that show. That's the first Voltron cartoon that's been out forever. There is no movie, She-Ra, same kind of thing.
Peter and Lucas.
I can see you, Rob.
What?
Oh, we're back.
Oh, we're back.
I was gonna say you were. I don't know.
It was on your end, Lucas.
I was monologuing, so hey.
You were talking about how other franchises only get one thing. Transformers keep stuff rolling.
Yeah,
but She-Ra and Voltron were both good shows with good writing and good characters and good pacing and good development. They were fun to watch and fun to rewatch. This is not. I'm never gonna watch this again.
I'll never watch this again.
But what my point is,
unless I want to just watch the clip of Megatron throwing Rhinox, I might watch that 10 seconds again.
My point is that Voltron needed it to be a good show. like Transformers doesn't need this to be a good show because they've got the next movie coming right around the corner in, a year from now, whatever. They've got another like I'm sure they're planning another cartoon and another thing and like whatever, right? This is a, hey, let's ship this, thing. Like I feel like a lot of the stuff, like, and even like the Motu show and some of those, like they need to revitalize the brand. G.I. Joe had to make a amazing movie in order to revitalize the brand.
So you're saying that because Transformers is so big, they never have to try anymore, and we're always going to get crappy, subpar garbage in our media content for the rest of time because Hasbro's like, hey, we got you. That
Pretty much, yeah.
That's farts, man. That's stinky, drippy farts.
There are
suffering from success.
Me, there are moments where Hasbro is making media just to sell the toys, and then there are times where Hasbro is making media that is also selling toys but is also entertaining. The Unicron trilogy I thought was garbage. It sold toys. It introduced new characters with no personality, whatever. It was very similar to this, from my perspective. But then after that, we got animated, and animated was cool. Animated was, guess what? 3-letter word, fun.
And you know why animated was good? Because the people running it were Transformer fans. Like they got the franchise, and not only did they just know the franchise, like they knew what G1 was and they knew what Beast Wars was, and they took the best parts of both and made it a modern cartoon. But
then you also have, to me, the most memorable components of the franchise since the original, let's say original 2 series, G1 and Beast Wars. To me, the most memorable iterations of the Transformers franchise, and most enjoyable, I guess I should say, Transformers Animated, the More Than Meets the Eye book, and I will say Cyberverse. And the thing that all three of those have in common is that they are fun. Again, I will say it. I know I'm out on a ledge there saying that.
I'm with you with Cyberverse is fun. Cyberverse is a lot of fun.
A lot of people in the cast actually like Cyberverse. We tried to watch it together once, and we got shut down by YouTube, and that was the only time I've tried to watch it.
Tried to watch it like 4 times, and it's awful. Sorry.
Just start with season 2, or even season 3 for that matter. Yeah. You shouldn't have to, but just trust me.
Can Transformers cartoon, like, could we ever do something as drastic as Beast Wars again?
No.
Like that was such a different shift. Like I don't know where they would go or what that would be. I'm not that creative, right? But I would be very interested.
That's it. Bots is it.
Yeah.
But that's like
Bots would be about as far as you could go away from this War for Cybertron stuff.
Rescue Bots has done stuff in both iterations of Rescue Bots. You have Prime, but then the rest of the characters are new.
He's not the main guy.
Yeah, he's like. Yeah, he pops in every once in a while, yeah.
But like where the media is aimed at, like, that teenage and up demographic, right? Where, it's not pure kid. Like in that vein where the main toy line, was, still what would be aimed at, the collector demographic. Yeah. I mean, I don't think so either.
Ever get to the state that G.I. Joe is in now. And like where no new fans have been created for the last 20 years.
But the toys are selling out.
Might try something like that.
The toys are selling out by scalpers and weirdos like us who are our age. They're just snapping them up. The Snake Eyes stuff, the Snake Eyes movie stuff, the 5-inch semi-articulated figures are not selling. It's the 6-inch Legends, Marvel Legends type ones, and the retro ones are the ones that are selling. The movie tie-in stuff, no one gives a crap because no kid cares about G.I. Joe.
I mean, but do they care as long as the Marvel Legends are all selling out?
And maybe I think try some sort of Hail Mary thing, but I hope we don't ever get there.
To me, I feel like at the end of the day, Hasbro's a toy company trying to make media. instead of a media company trying to make toys. So like, I mean,
That's
where I
not
think
really
that-
true anymore, though. They bought a media company to make media.
I guess.
They definitely don't see themselves that way. Is what like how successful they are. It's open for debate, but I think Hasbro does not consider themselves a toy company, like solely a toy company anymore. It hasn't for a while. Mixed success on that, right? But
they're what I mean. Are almost all companies like them just considering themselves IP companies, and it's all just how they handle their intellectual property?
They're getting there,
Yeah.
I mean, Catherine said it's a second golden age or whatever. Like, I don't think that's the case anymore. Not that things aren't great right now for collectors, because they absolutely are. But ever since 2007, the brand has just been on a constant upward trajectory. As much as we all hate the Bay movies, all of us also, I think, we're like, that changed our fandom forever. Like, I listened to the 2000s episodes, and if you haven't, you should, especially if you weren't there in the 2000s, or even if you were. It was a great time. It was a lot of fun to be there in that.
It was a great time to watch people who knew nothing about the property buy up Japanese figures, open them all up, and then sell them.
Like,
so
that was a fun time. There was a lot of great nostalgia in there for that, but it has just been up since then. Everything just keeps getting better. And like, there's some lags as stuff gets, readjusted and figured out, right? Like the classics, that 6-month line, right? That was just a filler line. And that started what is now dominates the primary Transformer line, right? Just straight G1 throwbacks. And it took them a while to get to that. But now, there's getting Beast Wars in there, and I assume we'll get more Unicron trilogy throwbacks in there as well, like someone else's G1, right? But I don't know. I think it's a continued upward trajectory. At some point, I don't know if it's sustainable.
It'll be interesting to see what comes after Legacy.
It'll be interesting to see what comes after Rise of the Beast. And
What's
it'll
Legacy?
be interesting to see, not necessarily
Legacy
just
is
Legacy,
classics
but
next year.
to me, Bumblebee was a weird point. The Bumblebee movie was a weird point for Transformers, because you didn't get the sense that Hasbro had a lot of faith in Bumblebee, and then it did probably better than they expected to. And so then they're like, oh, okay, we got a little something happening here. And so it'll be curious to see what happens with Rise of the Beasts. How much backing will Hasbro put behind it? It seems like they're putting more backing behind it than they did behind Bumblebee, in terms of some of the press that they've done already. And will that continue? I saw on one website today that there's rumors that it's already being pushed back another 6 months. I don't know, how valid those rumors are.
That's fine. Although Bumblebee had that December release date, maybe they're capturing that again.
Yeah, or maybe they're worried about, Delta variant, interrupting their filming schedule, so
any
give them some
number
more
of
breathing
things.
room.
Yeah. I don't put much stock into that. There's so many movies that, like, oh no, they went back for 6 months of reshoots, and the movie was awesome, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, thank God they went back.
Every Marvel movie has done reshoots.
Yeah. So I don't think it'll matter, or I don't think we can know until it's in front of us.
Yeah.
As long as it actually gets in front of us.
But yeah, I saw the website where I saw this rumors on was saying, well, because of the poor, box office sales of Snake Eyes, and because of the poor reception of Kingdom, they're pushing back Rise of the Beast. And like, I doubt those things.
I would
have
doubt
anything
that
to do
those
with
things
each
would be
other.
related.
That's
Yeah.
not linked. I would say, I mean, they know a Transformers movie is going to do better than a G.I. Joe movie. That's just fact.
But I'm curious to see what this franchise will look like after that point, and what will the next media iteration be like. And quite frankly, I think you can kind of get away from G1, but it has to be in the format of like a Transformers Prime or a Transformers Animated, where you have Optimus Prime as one of the main characters and Megatron is probably the villain, and then you branch off from there. But that has to sort of be your starting point these days, where you need Bumblebee, Prime, or Megatron have to be the main dudes.
I've got an idea. Okay, so what if the next
All
series
right,
starts
folks,
out?
that's all the time we got
Damn
for
it.
tonight, so.
Optimus Prime and Megatron, it starts off and they're in a final climactic battle, and they both seemingly die in the final battle. And then it skips forward like 15 years, and it's like, I don't know, Arcee or Nautica or someone, and she's got to go find the MacGuffins and she's got to go deep inside Cybertron, and she's got to go deep into space and get the MacGuffins together, and she brings together a ragtag group of like Autobots and Decepticons to find the MacGuffins, and then they find like the Hall of the Primes, and like Nova's there and Sentinel's there and Rodimus is there. It's so weird. And then they go back to Iacon, and Kevin Smith produces it.
Anything that they make, if the MacGuffins are just a backdrop, like Lost Light worked because of that, right? Like they had this big quest, and they did eventually, do their quest, right? But that was all just an excuse, right, to do character-driven stories.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was perfect.
Yeah, it was so great. So
I would like
just
to see
that
a new Transformers show by Alex Hirsch from Gravity Falls.
Oh God! I just want to see a new show by Alex Hirsch in general.
What is it?
You're right. But,
a lot of people love Gravity
Falls.
Falls. I don't know anything about it. My wife and daughter like it.
It's a good mystery kind of show.
No spoilers, so I have no idea what it is, so I don't want to.
I mean, it's a cartoon.
It's mysterious. There's
sit down with some of your kids.
Do
watch it on Disney Plus.
Some of my kids, like I got 14 of them running around.
He's just saying, just pick one. Pick your favorite.
Pick my favorite.
Pick your favorite one.
Yeah.
Where's the cat?
Yeah, there's always extra bits, like there's Easter eggy things, there's bits to go outside and research, there's like side quests to solve, and it's very audience involved, and the characters is good, the writing is good, the voice acting is excellent. It's all wrapped up together.
And I love what's her name. I think she's real funny.
Kristen Shaw?
Yeah, Kristen Shaw.
Yeah.
I really like her.
I know her.
Yeah. So Gravity Falls Transformers, please. That's what I want.
There you go.
What if it was Gravity Falls BotBots?
Sure. Even better.
I thought you'd get all giddy. I'm surprised. I was disappointed in your like somewhat muted reaction.
Oh,
that's what I was looking.
Yay! Please. Is that better? No, that would be really good. I don't know who they've got writing BotBots. No one knows anything about BotBots at this point, but
because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. You don't exist.
Nor should it.
It's from the team that brought you Combiner Wars.
I just hope every BotBot speaks really slow with a gravelly voice.
I have to find that production company's office and just pick it outside. I'll be a one-man protest.
I'll be with you. I'm right there with you.
Let's go, Destron.
So, did you guys have any other final thoughts on Beast?
Yeah.
No, we're just
Kingdom
now, like old people.
the
Kingdom,
final
watch it,
thoughts
I guess,
started
if you
30
feel
minutes
like you need to watch it. Otherwise, like everything else, it's skippable.
I look forward to the day where we have a Transformer thing that my non-Transformer friends shows interest in, and I can be like, yo, you should watch it. That hasn't happened since literally Beast Wars. I think I might have recommended animated to a couple of them, but I don't think they went there. But like, I have a group of some friends that like I kind of like started college era, but some of them watched Voltron, they watched Castlevania. Some of them, some of them are going to watch He-Man. Where they're all around my age. They don't buy any toys. They're not into any of that. But I had one of them ask me about when Transformers the first thing came out, and that was just because he's got a kid around 10 or so. It was like, hey, and I was like, yeah, your boy will probably like it. And go ahead, show it to him. I was like, but it's not great. Don't feel like you need to watch it because you don't. Whereas like I thought Voltron was enjoyable. I didn't really like the anime bits, but like overall I liked it. And I feel like anybody could enjoy that because of that. But maybe one day.
One day. It'll happen. There will be some unifying thing, and we'll all be like, yay! And we'll feel good recommending it to people, and it'll bring in new people, and it'll be a quality thing that they can be proud that it is their G1. I feel bad for any kid that this is their G1. It's like
this isn't any kid's G1.
This is just...
It's 18 episodes spread out. There's just a flash in the pan. You watch and you forget about it. There's no terrible sea spray episode that, if nothing else, it's memorable.
I feel like Cyberverse is more the G1.
Yeah.
Cyberverse is wonderful.
So well, thank you guys for joining me tonight, and thank you to everyone in the chat. Thanks to Zaldron, Catherine, VGBE342. Thanks to Ron. Thanks to Enots. Thank you. Let's see. Did I miss?
Is Destron you on a different account?
No.
Oh, so Blue Destron Peter is our Destron.
I'm Destron Peter. Yeah. There's another Destron.
There's a Destron, I guess, apparently. Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks, guys. And then also don't forget Book Club. They will be discussing one of the best Transformers movies, which is the animated movie. On Sunday night at 8:30 Central, as they talk about that. It's going to be the actual 35th anniversary. Yeah, probably the best one.
Probably. Jesus, Lucas, what are these weasel words for obvious things?
Also, don't forget our normal show, our spin-off show, Microcasters, on Thursday at 9:30 Eastern.
Who are you reviewing?
On Facebook. I don't know what we're reviewing this week. Lucas, do you know?
I have no idea. So
are we finally doing Sparkles? I think we're all back, right? Because you're not on vacation anymore. Yeah. I'm not on vacation anymore.
Is there some like MMC thing that some of y'all bought that I can come talk about? Like, other than that, I can't think of it.
No. Target, I think it's Sparkles time.
5 or 6 new Transformers to talk about.
Or we could do those guys. We'll find out. If you have suggestions, let us know.
I think we might be having an Ouch My Wallet or oof or something, I don't know, this week too. Potentially. Hey, I don't know if it's actually going to happen. I don't want to throw it out there and have it not happen, but...
I have like 9 boxes from Japan that I haven't opened yet. I don't know what to show off.
Jeez, okay. Ooh. Flextron.
Apparently Anna said Galvatron.
I don't have anything.
You could do Galvatron, I guess.
So, yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out, but we'll have a show on Thursday night, and maybe on Wednesday. We'll see. So, and cut the tape. Oh, I forgot to put up. I just remembered Rick sent me a cut the tape this weekend. I forgot to put it up. Oops.
Nice.
So hey, it's for next week. So
it's a busy week for us.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone, and we will see you next week.